Guys, I'm super excited to be here with you again. Today I'm going to be doing a movie review of X-Men. I love X-Men. I just going to be looking at X-Men in general and some of the things I'm drawn from the movie which speak to our personal lives. And of course I have to speak about faith. Which inspires me a lot. I remember the first time I watched X-Men Apocalypse. Now I'd always just watched X-Men. And then I watched X-Men Apocalypse, and in the beginning, there's this scene and they show Jesus carrying a cross. And it just changed everything for me. Suddenly everything came to view because there are a lot of concepts that I can pick from that illustrate the gospel. Even in the end, they show Charles Xavier after he died and in his grave, and they show the cross, and wow, it just everything came to view, and it showed me basically all of human struggle in the struggles we face in our personal lives. All ties into this, and you can draw encouragement from it, that there is meaning in our suffering. And I'd love to talk about Charles Xavier, which is amazing because we all know he's in this wheelchair, and you see this. I love the days of future past, because he has this struggle, and he's started taking some drug, and it just giving him back his limbs, and he can walk again, and he's not afflicted anymore by the pain. And it's almost like taking this drug to numb him, and he loses his ability though. He's no longer able to help other people. He's not it's like he's just going through life in this and numbing away that feeling and pain he doesn't want to feel, because his gift is hearing what is in other people's hearts and minds, and he sees all the suffering that people face, and he doesn't want to anymore hear people's cries in their hearts. He doesn't want to anymore. And the same with Hank, who is his assistant. And Hank, you see this in the first class, he didn't want to be different. He's tired of being laughed at. People call him a beast, and he's tired. He has this weird looking feet, and so I'd love to talk to anybody who's ever felt insecure for any reason, or going through a personal struggle in their life that make them feel different from the rest of the world, and you feel like your unique challenge is unique to you, and nobody else can really understand what you're going through, and you feel you don't know where you belong in this world, because you always feel different. I'd love to read for you some quotes from X-Men. One time Charles Xavier says, "Mutants born with extraordinary abilities, and yet still they're children stumbling in the dark, searching for guidance. A gift can often be a curse. Give somebody wings and they may fly too close to the sun. Give them power of prophecy and they may live in fear of the future. Give them the greatest gift of all, powers beyond imagination, and they'll think that they're meant to rule the world." This is really extraordinary, because when I heard this, it really spoke to me a lot. And in my personal life, I struggle with anxiety, and in that statement, he said that a gift can often be a curse. That changed the way I see this. Because maybe you've been thinking about the challenges you face You're looking at it as a curse, but maybe it's a gift. Does it make sense? Maybe what you've been thinking is a curse in your life, your specific challenge and personal struggle, maybe that is the blessing. Maybe that is the gift. Maybe you need to stop looking at it as a curse. Maybe it gives you an advantage, because I see Charles Xavier when he's having this struggle and he chooses to take the drug that takes away his ability, his gift, because he's feeling like it's a curse to him. But in the end, there's so much need. There's so much need. There's so many people waiting to be helped by him, because he's gonna start the school that's gonna help so many people, and he has to come to a decision in the end. And this is when, in the days of the future past, and his future self speaks to him. He's afraid of the pain. He's afraid of those voices coming back in his mind, the voices of other people's cries and burdens. So the future Charles Xavier speaks to him and he says, it's not the pain, it's not their pain you're afraid of, it's yours, Charles. And as frightening as it can be, that pain will make you stronger. If you allow yourself to feel it, embrace it, it will make you more powerful than you ever imagined. It's the greatest gift we have, to bear their pain without breaking. And it comes from the most human part of us, hope. Charles, we need you to hope again. We need you to hope again. I wanted to say this because this touches every form of addiction that mankind struggle with, because you see him taking this drug to numb away himself, because he doesn't want to face up to his fears. He doesn't want to face up to his fear, and he become a shell of himself. He's hiding in his mansion, and the world is yet waiting for him to discover who he is and embrace himself. And until he gives up that drug, even though, you know, he takes the bold move and is courageous enough to give up that drug, even though he loses his legs again, but he gains back his gift. You know, I love this X-Men because there's somebody in a wheelchair. And I can understand what it is to have a disability in your life. And yet also true that not every disability is visible. And whatever is crippling, disabling you in your life, there's still purpose, and the world needs you to hope again. You know, it's like your faith is not your own. So many people you are waiting for you. You're gonna help so many people when you overcome, when you have the courage to embrace yourself. It's instead of being so disheartened and discouraged by your circumstances, you know, it's that pain that makes you stronger. And you see this, you know, a lot in X-Men, people having this struggle. In The Last Stand, they make the drug as well, that people can be normal again. And I remember Rogue particularly, because she feels like her curse, her gift is not particularly any benefit. She wants to go take this drug so she can be normal, so she can have a normal life. and that is always the struggle of the things that you're missing out on, and it's that thing and stumbling block in our path from us realizing our real self, because it's our purpose, that uniqueness. You see this with Raven, and she's always trying to she's always, because she can change into anybody. And Magneto, Eric, is always trying to show her that when you are yourself, your true self, you're not using so much of your mind to concentrate, and that can save your life. And just embrace yourself. And I see this in the first class. Hank had taken Raven's blood and formed a cure. There's always some cure we're looking for, some cure that just to take it away so you can be normal. And he uses this cure, and it does the opposite, and it actually enhances his gifts, and then that's when he turns blue completely. But he's a beast now, no point of him hiding it anymore. At first he's afraid. So there's this, when we stop being afraid of what other people perceive us to be, of the slack, people may make fun of us or whatever, and realize that the purpose is much greater and it's bigger than us, because there's so much cause in the world to fight for, and we make a difference because of that difference that makes you more than human. It's that bias. There's also this scene where Wolverine goes back to the past. He's the one whose consciousness is transferred to the past, and he's not got metal claws yet. He has his normal bone. But it's so amazing, because I thought, given the chance to go back to the past, because he experienced a lot of pain, even Charles Xavier, reading his mind, could see all the pain, and he's like, oh, you poor man. He understood, so he had gone through all of this, and they're trying to experiment, and they put this metal adamantium in his in his bones, and he suffered a lot because of it. And I thought, going back to the past, maybe he could change that, maybe he wouldn't, but it's so interesting that he's gone back to the past, and he ended up going through the same thing again, the same process, even though he had gone to the past to change the past. And I just found it interesting. And it says in the end of Days of Future Past, Charles Xavier speaking, the past, a new and an uncertain world, a world of endless possibilities and infinite outcomes. Countless choices define our fate. Each choice, each moment, a moment in the ripple of time, enough ripple, and you change the tide. For the future is never truly set. And it made me realize that there's so many things. Sometimes we base our circumstances, like, it's that one time in my life that changed my whole life. One point in my life that changed my whole life. If I could go back to the past, I would change this. If I could go back to the past, I would take away that moment that changed me forever. Maybe it's that accident. Maybe you think, if I didn't do this, maybe I wouldn't be here today. We're always fixated with changing the past. but unfortunately we can't. But it's exactly that past that makes you you, that makes you who you are. And as much as we'd love to change the past, and we can be fixated and we can be bound by the past, can be stuck in the past, in our former self, rather than embrace the new person. Even with the struggle that we now have, but that's what makes us unique. That is what's building us to be the person we need to be. The world it needs to see. And I'll go to this, and I'd love to speak on something in the Bible, and this is somebody's real experience. And this was a man called Paul of Tarsus, and this is a man who has been called by Jesus and he's seen Jesus. Last time I spoke about his conversion, and he saw he's now called Paul. And even though he's seen Jesus and he's a man of power, he heals the sick. You know, God uses him to do a lot of things and to bring hope to many people, to spread the gospel to many nations. And yet, if you read his letters, he's always talking about being in chains himself. Yet he's a person bringing freedom and preaching liberty to so many people. And so many people are receiving freedom because of him. But yet he identifies with being in chains himself. But he doesn't give up. He has this hope that is always alive. And one time he speaks of something he's also struggling with personally in his life, or his body, if you like. He says, I must go on boasting, although there is nothing to be gained. I'll go on to visions and revelations from the Lord. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. Whether it be in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that this man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise and heard inexpressible things that no one is permitted to tell. I'll boast about a man like that, but I will not boast about myself except about my weakness. Even if I should choose to boast, I would not be a fool, because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain, so no one will think more of me than I'm warranted by what I do or say, or because of the surpassing great revelations. Therefore, in order to keep me from being conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardship, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. This is very interesting, because he says how, and he explains how he's able to do these things he does, and it's because God's power, Jesus Christ's power, rests on him. And he's basically talking about, it is him he's talking about, who has taken to heaven and shown great things that you can't express. And So he has a lot of experiences he's had with God and seen things that are out of this world, and yet when you see him, he's just a normal man. But he also says that I can talk about these things because, and he doesn't feel proud about it at all. And the reason why is because his struggles are much bigger, that it doesn't allow him to go beyond himself. It doesn't allow him to take pride in those things and the great revelations he had. Because if he told you his struggles, he has huge struggles he faces, and he talks about even having this thorn in his flesh that he's prayed often about, and God wouldn't take it away. And this is a man delivering so many people from Satan, but he's given a messenger from Satan to torment him. So imagine he faces a battle in his own flesh, and yet his fight is against the evil one, and Satan his fight is against the evil, and he's bringing deliverance to so many people, yet closest to him, he knows this fight. And but he says something that he would rather boast about these difficulties and weaknesses he has, because when he's weak, then he is strong. When he's weak, God's power rests on him the more. It's like when Charles Xavier was in the wheelchair, that's when, his gift is most is away. When he was walking and he was normal, he didn't have that gift. It's just the way it is. And to close, I also wanted to talk about something, because Wolverine had gone back to the past to change the past, because Raven had killed somebody, and that set in motion a set of things that made them create this sentinels, and they end up killing all the mutants. So he has a chance to go back, and the only way to change the future is to stop Raven, is to change Raven from the bad side and this killing. If he didn't kill this person, then all of this wouldn't have happened. And it's amazing, because they don't know whether it can be done. Can they really bring change to this person who's on this streak? She's gone over to the bad side, let me say. And somebody even questions, like, is it possible to change this? Maybe it's the way it's gonna be. It's like it's either we're bad or good. And Charles Xavier says something that even the future self has said to himself, that just because somebody stumbles and loses their path, it doesn't mean they're lost forever. Just because somebody stumbles and loses their path, it doesn't mean they're lost forever. So he has hope and faith in her that she'll do the right thing. She'll come to the good side and realize, and this will change the future. This will save, basically, all humanity. And so our actions are weighing on this. Our actions are weighing on it, and it's very, very powerful, because Charles himself had lost his way, and he had stumbled and lost his way, but he's given back this hope and he comes back from the bad path to the good path. And this is redemption. That's why repentance is important, and there's hope in our actions will affect the future ultimately. You know, whether we may think that's a small action or our actions don't matter, but they do. If Charles Xavier chose to be selfish and self-destructive and continue taking the drugs he is taking, you never have brought healing to so many people's lives who were lost and needed direction. He opens the school for people like him. So there's hope for everybody, and it's important not to give up faith in people, but to always see that good part of them that needs to be encouraged. You know, don't look at them like they're just a bad person. I look at this because Wolverine also, had to go back and set free Eric, who was in a prison in the Pentagon, and this is the bad guy, but we see in the future they're standing together with Charles Xavier. Can you imagine it? And he's going back to set him free because he can help in this fight for a good cause. And in the end, they all make it to the good side, and there's the ultimate fight of good and evil, and they have to go back to the past to change the bad actions that were taken so that they can come on the good path. I hope you're all encouraged. Cheers, thank you.